Welcome to our pre-show, the show before the official show, as we get our stream goings and let our social media platforms notify viewers. So I am actually going to start looking at our stream on Facebook as Delane Adams tells us how things are going in his life. Delane. So actually, two of our guests just walked into the studio. Tim Schlittner walked in, and Julie Greene walked in. This is our pre-show. We have a minute before the show, so they're getting mic'd up right now. But Delane, you used to work at the AFL-CIO, so you know them. Tell us a little bit about them.
Yeah, Tim is a Giants fan, so so we'll have a lot to talk about, him being a New York Giants fan.
And he went to Syracuse.
So Tim's a great guy. I never worked with Julie before, but I'm sure she's a great person as well.
We're just meeting her.
Tim's great speechwriter. He has a way with words, so yeah.
Okay, so
I'm excited about their podcast.
So I'm excited too. I listened to two of them today, and they dropped a new one today.
Oh man!
So we'll be talking to them at about 3:20, we think. Okay. But it is 3 o'clock, so let's get started.
Activate your voice.
Fight for your rights. Speak up. Speak out.
We're Union and we're proud. Go Union.
Live from Maryland, this is Activate Live.
Welcome to Activate Live. I'm Tanya Hutchins, coming to you live from Machinists Union headquarters in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. We have a jam-packed show for you today, learning about getting out the vote, which we call GOTV for short. We'll get an update from Ohio, and we'll also hear about a community service project that touched a lot of hearts in Maine. We're wrapping up National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we'll introduce you to the hosts of the AFL-CIO's new podcast, State of the Unions. But first, here's Delane Adams with what's going on this week, Machinists Union-wise. Delane?
Tanya, how are you?
Good.
We'll start off with news from Canada.
Excellent.
So District Lodge 140 celebrated their 20th anniversary this past week in Halifax, Nova Scotia. So it was founded on July 1st, 1998, with the mergers of Districts 148 and 721. And of course, you know, great news always coming from District 140. Membership growth is at an all-time high. So congratulations on 20 years. Great pictures.
Congratulations.
And from the Southern Territory, workers at McConnell Air Force Base in Wichita, Kansas, and Altus Air Force Base in Oklahoma are gathered this week for negotiations with Flight Safety Services Corporation. Again, working on a great project, the Boeing KC-46A Pegasus. And again, our members are making sure that the Pegasus program will be maintained at these bases. But again, you know, our members also build the Pegasus, the KC-46. So very excited that this program is coming to the Southern Territory, and I know our members in Oklahoma and Kansas will be great. And
we're so excited and proud to say we built that.
Yes, we built that. Love that phrase. We built that.
We built that.
So,
okay. Thank you so much, Delane.
Thank you. All right. Have a great show.
Thank you. Well, we are just 6 days away from Election Day, less than 1 week. The best way to make our voices heard is to vote and make sure it's counted. Now, many people are already voting early. Others are waiting until Election Day. I voted this past Saturday in Northeast D.C., and union members all over the country are doing labor-to-labor education, helping to get out the vote. One of them is Monica Lee Silbus, who joins us from Ohio. Where are you exactly, Monica?
I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and I've been all in the northeast section of Ohio, which includes Akron, Canton, Youngstown, and also Columbus.
So what have you been doing there?
Well, we've been canvassing, we've been phone banking, we've been talking to union members who are, and let me tell you, the one thing that I've heard over and over again is that voters, they vote on their values, and they translate those values into issues. And then they look at these candidates and they see how they're voting, and that's how they that's how they plan to vote when they walk into the election day.
Now, Monica, what are some of the issues that they're talking about in Ohio?
You know, I had heard this in the polls, but I didn't believe it until I actually talked to union members. Healthcare, healthcare, healthcare. After that comes pensions, jobs, the economy. But the number one issue that voters are looking at.
Okay, Monica, I'm hoping you're still there. I see you. You have a guest with you.
Yeah.
Harriet, introduce us to Harriet.
Yes, this is Harriet Applegate. She's the executive secretary at the North Shore Central Labor Council. And we've been running a big program out here in Cleveland. I'll let her tell you a little bit about it. Harriet?
Hi, everybody. Yeah, we've got a great program with a great staff, including Monica, and we're working very well together. We send out canvas shifts all day long. We're doing phone banking. We're really emphasizing canvassing, and of course, before we're emphasizing work leafleting and worksite conversations. It's changed from previous elections. We've really focused on the worksite as the best, cheapest, efficient, and most effective way to talk to members. And we've also focused on local union mail pieces from the president to the member. And that also is very effective because it's their own local union.
Now, Harriet and Monica,
yes.
Both of you talked about effective way to talk to other union members, and I know on this show we try to keep things issue-based and nonpartisan. Does that make it easier to talk to any kind of union member?
I think it does. I mean, our members care deeply about the issue, and sometimes they don't necessarily translate that into the candidate, but that's what we're for. We're here to help you do that.
Yep. You start getting to the older union member, you start talking about retirement issues and pension issues. They identify with that. And then, you know, we tell them too that when we endorse candidates that follow or believe the way we do amongst working families. And we tell them we try to support those that are going to support us. You know, it doesn't matter about parties. If they support us, we support them.
Okay, thank you so much. Anything else you'd like our viewers to know?
Well, let me just clarify. This is all done through the MMPL Educational Fund. So if people are wondering how we're out there doing this and talking and walking to people, the MMPL Educational Fund is, so please, we urge all locals to contribute so we can get this done and we can get working family candidates and issues passed.
And that's the Machinist Nonpartisan Political League, and no dues money goes to that, right? Okay, thanks so much, Monica. If you want, we had a little poor connection, but we got all the information that we needed. So we have a lot of races coming up. We hope that everyone gets out and votes. And we had the website up there. If you wanted more information, you could just go to that website. Thank you so much, Harriet, and thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya.
Okay, that was Monica Silva. She's the IAM's Assistant Legislative Director helping with labor-to-labor education in Ohio, and today she is in the Cleveland area. So let us know what you think about Labor 2018. Have you voted yet? And if not, do you plan to vote? You can comment right here on this video, whether you're watching on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Well, our next guest was involved in a convoy for a cause last Saturday in Maine. He heard about a tragedy. Actually, we have a commenter ready. It was Ramon Garcia, and thank you, Ramon, for commenting. I saw you said howdy there. But our next guest actually heard about a tragedy, and he helped to do something about it after a 2-year-old boy was hit by a truck, and he was injured during his mother's suicide. Now, luckily, little Enoch survived. IAM member Jason Perry joins us now to tell us all about this community service project. Thanks for taking the time, Jason.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Now, how did this whole convoy for a cause come about?
So I had a friend of mine reach out to me and want me to organize something through a Facebook group that I run. I've been organizing cars and groups for a lot of years now, and I run a Facebook page that has about 14,000 members on it, and I was asked to utilize that to run some sort of charity benefit as I did last year for a friend of mine who passed away. So.
What kind of reaction did you get when you posted it to that page?
It was unbelievable. I have insights through my Facebook pages, and it's told me that it throughout the course of it, it reached about 200,000 people. I was reached out to by a magazine, a trucker magazine in Alabama. The reaction was unbelievable. It happened this last weekend, and it was an absolutely tremendous thing. And it was really great to see in this day and age people come together and want to do something nice for the community. And I was just lucky to be a part of it.
How did that make you feel, just seeing so many people come together for the family?
It during the day there, it made me quite emotional, to be completely honest with you, because like I said, it's just, you don't see that type of stuff in this day and age. And to get the coverage that we did from everywhere, from local news all the way to you guys here, just the coverage of this has been astounding, and it's been amazing to see, and the support that little boy has got, and he always can have that to look back on. It's been incredible.
And how much were you able to raise for the family?
All in all, we raised just about $8,000.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, and there's a GoFundMe page set up as well for him that I ran concurrently with my event that got started before. And last I checked, they were up to $35,000.
That's what I saw as well, $35,000, and I saw that they're trying to raise $50,000. So this is wonderful that you were able to do this. So there is a GoFundMe page that is still available if anyone wants to donate. Jason, is there anything else that you want people to know about all of the truckers who came together, all of the people on Facebook?
Just that there is still a lot of good out there. You know, we see a lot on social media, and it's not always the greatest thing. But times like this, it really goes to show you how great social media can be to bring everybody together for good causes. So it's amazing to see.
Thank you so much, Jason Perry, for I Am Local S6 in Maine. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And you too can join the conversation. Thank you to everyone who has commented so far. You can comment on this video to tell us what you think about the second half of our slogan, Service to the Community. You can comment on Facebook, Twitter, or use live chat on YouTube. James Powell is joining us from Local Lodge 2003, so thank you, Jason. Brian Steele joined us, Terry Hall, Heather Duchevich says if you're a union and you vote, you can vote. Make sure that you're voting for yourself is basically what she is saying. Vote for yourself. Help cover the cost of medical bills and funeral expenses. We have the link right there in the comments if you're watching on Facebook. And later on, we'll put this GoFundMe page link in Twitter as well. And we can even put it on YouTube. So thank you to everyone who has donated so far. Well, October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and even though we are on the last day of the month, we wanted to talk about this important subject. All month, organizations have been educating the public about disability employment issues and celebrating the many and varied contributions of workers with disabilities. Nearly 50 million Americans have disabilities, and one of the organizations fighting for equality is Transcend, whose president, Laura Owens, joins us now. So Laura, thanks for being here.
Hi, thanks so much, Tanya, for this opportunity.
Now, we met you through the Campaign for Disability Employment. What is that coalition about, and how does Transcend fit in?
So Transcend is a national organization that has offices in California, Wisconsin, and Maryland, and we assist individuals with disabilities in obtaining employment. And we do a lot of work with the Office of Disability Employment Policy and really promote October as Disability Employment Awareness Month. So a lot of our candidates who we support in the community are part of the campaign. We use a lot of the PSAs to kind of promote with other employers the importance of opening up their doors for employment for individuals with disabilities. So we've been actively involved for over 30 years in the disability field. And so it's really important to us to get the word out. And even though it's the last day doesn't mean that we don't think about it throughout the rest of the year.
So what are some of the perceived barriers to employment for people with disabilities?
There are probably a lot, and I think what's really important for people to remember is that we are all just one event away from being a person with a disability. That's the only minority group that any one of us can be a part of at any point in our lives. And so I think that a lot of the barriers are misperceptions about people's abilities, whether it's a visible disability, somebody with a physical disability, or an intellectual disability. The thought that they aren't able to do the job the way that it needs to be done. I think just those stereotypes and perceptions about that. And then also the invisible disabilities. I think people are kind of afraid to disclose that they have a disability for fear that they will be looked at differently, or the expectations of doing the job will be looked at differently, and their performance will be sort of looked at in a different way. I think that just kind of getting over that hump that people with disabilities can do just about any job that's available, just like the rest of us, is really, I think it's really most of the stereotypes.
What can employers do to be more inclusive if they would like to improve?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think that one of the things that employers can do is just be educated. Reach out to organizations, government organizations like the Office of Disability Employment Policy has a plethora of toolkits and just informational tools that can be used for employers, from recruiting individuals with disabilities to hiring, the interview process. I think that, just kind of educating yourself and being kind of understanding how to get beyond those stereotypes when you look at somebody with an intellectual disability, or somebody who uses a wheelchair, or who signs for their communication, and not looking at that as a barrier to employment, because we have to remember that people with disabilities actually are quite creative in overcoming their disabilities, because they are living in an able-bodied world. So if employers could just look at an individual as an individual, and certainly ask the question, here's the job, how do you see you're able to do this job? Because most people with disabilities are pretty creative in how they can accommodate. I think the other thing is that a lot of employers feel that accommodating somebody on a job who happens to have a disability will be very costly. And we know through the Jobs Accommodation Network, which is another great website for employers to go to, that the majority of accommodations cost less than $50. So I think, again, just those stereotypes and assumptions that to hire somebody with a disability is going to cost me more, my insurance is going to go up. I think helping employers become more educated, that those are just really urban myths, for a lack of a better word.
And last but not least, what can employees do, employees who have disabilities, when they want to fight back against the stigma or against discrimination itself?
Yeah, great question. So we make it really clear with the folks that we support that they should be honest and open, and that they are also part of that education process. So if you have an invisible disability, if you have a mental health issue or a learning disability that's not there, don't hide it. Don't say that you are you have this disability, but you're not going to disclose it. We talk with lots of folks with disabilities who say, I'm really proud of the fact that I have a disability. So if they're facing some type of discrimination, talk to their employer. It doesn't have to be litigious. We want it to be an open discussion, because as a person with a disability, you want to be able to educate your employer. So if they feel that they're being discriminated against for whatever reason based on their disability, they should just reach out to their employer, to their supervisor, and have that discussion about why they feel this way. And just recently we had a young man who offered to do a presentation about what it was like to have autism, and what his coworkers could do to make him feel more part of the team. And it was an amazing process to watch this young man talk with his coworkers and explain, I feel like I'm being discriminated against because I happen to have autism, but I'm just like you. And so, just opening up and having that discussion is really important.
Well, we thank you so much for joining us. And for more information, you can visit a website. It's called whatcanyoudocampaign.org. Whatcanyoudocampaign.org. This campaign has been going on all month and being advertised and promoted, and we are honored to help promote it as well. So please visit the website. There are some PSAs, one of which we showed you, that are available for download if you'd like to use them. So thank you so much for joining us. Laura Owens from Transcend.
Thank you.
And I can't even talk. Last but not least, we have some exciting news for you. If you haven't already heard, the AFL-CIO has started a new podcast. It's called State of the Unions. Great name. And the co-hosts are joining us to give us an introduction to themselves and the podcast. So please welcome Julie Greene and Tim Schlittner to our show. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us, Tanya. Glad to be here.
I listened to the podcast. It's great. I love it. I saw that you dropped a brand new one today, so you have 3 in the can already. And on that first one, you were both introducing yourselves. So we want to give you a chance to do that here briefly. If you can each tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into how the podcast came about.
Sure. My name is Julie Greene. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, which for me is like central to how I came to labor in the first place. Cleveland used to be a big steel town. When I left 20 years ago, I always thought, you know, it would come back. And it hasn't. And it's because the labor movement hasn't come back in the way it needed to be. So in 2007, I first came to the AFL-CIO. I was there for 7 years. I was deputy political director. Left for a brief time and came back this February to run our mobilization program. So I'm excited and I'm happy about this new venture and happy to be working with Tim.
Excellent.
Yeah, totally excited to be working with Julie. I'm Tim Schlittner, run the speech writing operation at the AFL-CIO. Delane mentioned I'm a Giants fan.
Yes.
It's a sad time for us right now. I'm from New Jersey. 1-7. I don't want to get off on a tangent on that.
But you went to Syracuse. I went to Ithaca. I almost went to Syracuse.
There you go.
But Syracuse wouldn't give me any money.
Central New York is a hotbed of broadcast journalism talent.
It's awesome.
So,
yeah.
I'm very excited about this podcast. I come out of a union family in New Jersey. My dad was in the retail workers. I did some work for the United Food and Commercial Workers, UFCW. Spent some time on the Hill, and now just have a labor of love of working at the AFL-CIO and working on this podcast with my friend and colleague Julie.
I love how honest you two are because your personalities really come through. I don't want to say you let it all hang out, but you can really tell the honesty there. I mean, how much does that help and how easy is that, being that honest?
To be honest, it surprised me. You know, when we first kind of sat down and got into doing the first episode, we went places that, you know, I wasn't expecting. You know, we talk about mental health, we talk about, you know, our childhoods, where we're from, and relate it all back to kind of our journeys. And really what this podcast is about, what Tim speaks to much more eloquent than I do, is telling the stories and really looking behind the curtain of labor. Because I think for so many, they think the labor movement is one thing. It's this monolith. It's all male. It's all white. It's all older. And Tim and I are kind of voices that speak to the direct opposite, and we want to bring those stories in.
I first met Tim at the Pride at Work convention.
Right.
And I was so impressed because one of the things you did, you stood up and you said that you were stepping down because, how did you say it? There were too many people that looked like you in the labor movement?
I said we have enough leaders that look like me. And it was time to pass the torch, and I served a 3-year term. And it was a very challenging, difficult convention, but I was proud to hand it off to a person of color who's now the new co-president of Pride at Work. So
that really spoke to me because it was so selfless.
Thank you.
You know, that was just, and I could hear the type of person you are coming through your podcast as well. So.
And I felt like people have accused me lately of suffering from TMI. Too much information, but I talk about this in the podcast. The whole part of my life I was closed off. I was in the closet. I was very unhappy. I was giving half-truths. I was closed off to the world, and I'm just done doing that. And one of the things we have as a labor movement is incredible stories to tell. You just interviewed a member with an incredible story from Maine. We have those stories. We want to highlight those stories, and if we can't be open and honest, then how can we ask others to do the same?
Now, we have some graphics, I think, from some of your podcasts, and one of them was called Speaking Truth to Power. But I wanted you to go through a little bit, there it is, Speaking Truth to Power, a conversation with Flint whistleblower Dr. Mona Hanna Atisha. Is that how she says it? Yeah, how was that conversation?
Well, it was a really special conversation, and Dr. Mona spoke at the AFL-CIO convention in St. Louis and talked about the role of unions in Flint. Flint was once one of the most prosperous cities in the nation as a result of a very strong and powerful labor movement and the United Auto Workers building up General Motors and other companies there. But it suffered under the reign of bad politics, bad policy, privatization, union busting, and Flint today is not that. And for that reason and others, the water in Flint was poisoned and the citizens were put in danger. And she blew the whistle on it. She published her science. She took her science and published it right away, foregoing a long review process that academics usually have to go through because she felt like it was a crisis and children, the future of children were at stake. So it was an incredible conversation, not just about Flint, but about the power of the labor movement and how the comeback of unions can mean the comeback of the American dream.
Now, Julie, even talk about your title is State of the Unions. You all discussed that in your first episode. How do you think we're doing, the state of our unions?
As I
right
said
now?
in the episode, I feel like the State of the Union is strong. I feel like we're growing. I feel like we hear so much about the union movement is dying or it's dead. Is it true that we're always under attack? Yes. But look underneath to examine why we're always under attack. You know, we are out there. We're the voice at work. We're advocating for everyone. And I think anytime you have that challenge to power, you know, it comes after you. So we're used to that. But, you know, we have a movement that grew by over 250,000 workers over the last year. You know, we're organizing in the South. We're growing the movement in places where, you know, we thought we'd never be able to. And we're excited about that. We're excited about the future. One of the things that Tim and I got into a little bit of a conversation about is, you know, we just had this great victory in Missouri where we beat back right to work in August. And it took a lot of people. It took a lot of conversations. It took a lot of just going door to door and talking about that issue and the implications of what that issue would have, you know, on the average Missourian's family. But, you know, when we really stepped back and took a look at it, we are powerful, and we've got a message, and we've got to get it out there.
I am so happy to see so many young people marching and protesting and making their voices heard, whether they're graduate students or high school students. Do you think you'll delve into that, and what are some of the other topics that you all want to get into?
One of the things AFL-CIO President Richard Trumka has been talking about all year is that of the 262,000 new union members who joined in 2017, 3/4 of them were under the age of 35. Wow. So there's a youth movement going on in this country. The youth movement and the labor movement can come together. We share values, we share vision, we're diverse, and we absolutely want to feature that on the podcast. We will. And young people stepping up and speaking out is one of the true great stories of the year, and I think we're going to see on Tuesday in the election the impact of that.
Now, remind us the one that just dropped today. Was it the union members in public office?
This one is about Mayor Dahlia Vertrees in New Jersey. Hillside,
New Jersey, member of the Operating Engineers Union, a really dynamic African-American woman who won a local race. Her union backed her up, and now she's making a difference in public office. So it's a really cool conversation.
Excellent. So how is it going? Is it going the way that you thought it would go with the podcast?
Well,
I don't know, is it?
It's going great. It's going great. We're out there now on iTunes, on Stitcher, on Google Play. We're on Spotify. We're promoting it at places like this with our affiliates, with the broader world, with the union community. And we've been getting a lot of feedback for ideas and guests, and people are excited. There's 68 million people listen to podcasts in America. So there's a space there. We feel like labor's message and the rise of unions is a story that should be told. And we want to tell it in a space like the podcast world where we can reach more people. So we're, you know, like any venture, there's false starts and bumps along the way, and it took a long time to get it up, and you know, putting together basically a TV show every week, it's a lot of hard work. And but we're really excited to be doing it, and I think the sky's the limit.
You were getting a lot of thumbs up on our comments.
Woo-hoo!
And when you talked about the South, our Ramon Garcia says, you know, we've had 2 recent organizing wins as the Southern Territory. Go Union, so they could totally,
Absolutely.
you know, relate to what you were saying about
Boeing in
that.
South Carolina, I remember this year, that was in a period where we had 10,000 members join in a week. And it's just, that's what gets me excited.
Atlanta Gaslight in Georgia.
Absolutely. Organizing victories are what really gets me excited, because when we grow our movement, we expand our power in politics and bargaining in every facet of the country and the world.
So Caleb popped up there with a comment there. So he's given
Caleb.
everybody the website. Was it stateoftheunions.org?
.org.
And he drove us to this interview, so
Yay!
we're very thankful to him for that.
And you know what? I'm going to do this right here because I forgot to earlier, but normally we also do Instagram Live, and I was supposed to turn it on for you all. So what I'm going to do is, for our Instagram Live story, is I'm just going to start it mid-interview here.
There you go.
And let everybody know that we are now live with the AFL-CIO, Tim Schlittner, Julie Greene. We're talking about the new podcast, State of the Union. So I'm going to put it down here, and hopefully it won't fall down.
Got to bring some Insta
Nice.
game.
There you go.
Yeah, so
All
as
right.
long as you 2 are on there, I don't need to be on there. But, yeah, what do you have to say to the viewers out there who are non-union, who want to learn more about unions? And they may stumble upon the podcast.
Yeah, I guess I would say, you know, the union story is everyone's story. So this isn't something that's inclusive, that isn't about you, that you won't, you know, feel akin to. This is something that's for everyone. You know, the worker stories that are out there, the way the economy is going, the way we feel about race and class and gender and how that all, you know, interacts with this space that we're in. They're all different topics that we're touching on and that we're talking about in a real way. And I think for Tim and I, you know, it's impossible for us not to bring our own experiences into it. And, you know, we want to be open and we want to relate in that way.
Now, I know after Election Day, you're going to have a recap. So even though we keep it nonpartisan here, but, you know, it's important to get out and vote. What do you hope to accomplish during that recap?
Well, our issues are on the ballot on Tuesday, and we want to talk about is how were we able to advance our issues, how we were able to advance our endorsed candidates, the thousands, I think it's thousands, Julie, of union members that are going to be on the ballot Tuesday, so we don't have to support a candidate and then wonder once they get in office, are they going to stand up for our issues because they're one of us. So having one of us at the table, that's a game changer. So I think in those key areas, issues, candidates, and then union members running for office, we're going to take a look at what's happening in the country and see what's been building. We also want to talk about what's been building this entire year through the organizing wins, through the protests like you talked about, the teachers that walked out, all the amazing collective action that's going on. It's a story of 2018. I think Tuesday's the next chapter in the story, and we want to talk about it.
And I think a lot of people understand when we say vote for you, vote for people who will vote for you.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll find out, you know, who voted for who.
Well, we will, one way or the other.
Yes, we will. Okay, how often will you do this? Every other week?
Yeah, every 2 Wednesdays. So our next one would be November 14th and then November 28th after that. And can I tell where to find us?
Go for it.
Okay, if you want to subscribe on iTunes, you go to go.aflcio.org/podcast.
Okay.
Again, that's go.aflcio.org/podcast. If you have one of the other podcast apps, or if you have a Android phone, just go to aflcio.org/podcast, and there's information there about whatever platform you use. You can subscribe and check us out.
Okay, I was trying to type as you were saying that,
How did that go?
go.aflcio.org/podcast, and
Yes.
I obviously cannot type, but let me see. I'm going to put that in right there as a comment.
Oh, perfect.
So
Thank you.
go.aflcio.org/podcast.
I'll like that comment when I get back to you.
Yes!
Yeah.
Okay, it popped up. That's good.
Yep.
And what was the second one that you said?
So the other one, if you want to find it anywhere else, you just go to
aflcio.org/podcast. There we go. I think I did it. aflcio.org/podcast.
There it is.
Awesome.
Yay! Okay, Caleb's over there typing too.
Yeah,
so
Michael,
he's
did I
got
get
it.
those right? He's giving me a thumbs up. Yeah.
All right, excellent. Anything else that you want to mention that we haven't talked about so far?
I just wanted to say, that our podcast stands on the shoulders of shows like this, where our affiliate unions and people in the labor space are actually getting out there, doing communications in a new way, doing content and producing content on a regular basis and highlighting our stories. So it's just really cool. And I really enjoyed meeting you at the Pride at Work convention. And I think it'd be great to collaborate with you and all.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come out here. We appreciate it. And we are so welcome to work together with you at any time. And we actually did something today just for you all and to help our members find you as well. So we put you a link to your podcast in our app. So if you go to the IAM app, everybody, you can subscribe to the State of the Union's podcast, and not just through Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or TuneIn, and anywhere else you can find podcasts, but you can go to our app and hit the menu in the upper left-hand corner, and in that menu, you'll see it says AFL-CIO podcast.
There it is.
Right down there, right under Activate Live. So if you push that, it'll take you to the podcast. You can listen to it. So spread the word in your locals, in your districts, that this exists. And I'm sure there's a topic in there for everyone.
Well, we're going to be talking about the Machinists Union and all the great work they're doing for sure.
Thanks so much. And here's your AFL-CIO website, State of the Unions.
There it is.
So you could watch it there as well. So many places to watch it.
Thanks for doing that.
No problem. So if you have listened to the podcast, let us know what you think in the comments section of this video. You can comment on Facebook, hit the reply button on Twitter, or use live chat on YouTube. So thank you so much for being here. We have AFL-CIO with all the links there saying that you can find the information about labor-endorsed candidates there, and they have it, myunionmyvote.org. See, great information coming out live. We love it.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
All right, take care.
Keep in touch. Well, we want to show you a Halloween list because it is Halloween. I didn't wear black this time. I was going to, but it didn't work out. But I'll get my candy together. But we would love for you to support union-made candy if you can. Here's a list of all these companies. A lot of my favorites are on here, like Hershey's Hugs, Hershey's Nuggets, anything that you can find. So these are companies that really support fair pay and treat their workers well. So we just wanted to give you a list of them about living the ethically sweet life on Halloween. So happy Halloween, everybody. And here's what's ahead for the Machinists Union and our members. We have our calendars coming up for you to let you know what's going on at the William W. Wimpesinger Education and Technology Center. So coming up this month, we have Advanced Communicators. Registrations are due now for the classes that are in January 2019. Train the Trainer, News Writing for Communicators, and more information is on the website, wimpesinger.imaw.org. We have other meetings coming up as well, State Council meetings, November 29th to December 1st. Washington State Council has its fourth quarter meeting in Union, Washington. And our conferences and conventions are coming up. The Women's Conference, Women Rising, Unite the Fight, will be at Bally's in Las Vegas, April 2nd to the 6th. I will be there, hopefully. I think I will. My boss is in the room. He's nodding his head. And also, the Guide Dogs of America events are coming up. It's the largest fundraiser of the year, November 15th to the 17th. There's Hogs for Dogs motorcycle ride, a sporting clay event, a golf tournament, and then, of course, the charity banquet. And that banquet is casual again this year, so you will like that. And we'll bring you all the latest news from each of those events as soon as we can. That's it for this episode of Activate Live. We will see you next Wednesday, same social media platform. Remember, you can watch at your convenience at any time, but we always start the show at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. See you then.